Hey everyone, it's Andy here, and today I wanted to talk about the 600 child dependent stimulus check and the various payment issues people are seeing with this. As a reminder, this was approved under the COVID relief bill just recently, and it's the second round. There was an earlier one for $500 earlier this year, but like that one, people are seeing issues. I'll go into a little bit about some of the issues and what you can do to help get over those. As a reminder, please subscribe to this channel and like this video if it helps you. You can also go to my website, www.savingtoinvest.com, to get more information, and I'll post some more links to detailed articles on this topic shortly. So to recap, the $600 dependent stimulus, was fully funded in the new relief bill. It is a one-time payment that goes out with the adult stimulus. It is paying now, so the IRS already has announced that it is sending the stimulus checks. This actually happened pretty quickly, and already people are seeing their stimulus, the adult stimulus check, which was $600 for singles and $1,200 for couples. And so with that, the dependent stimulus check was supposed to be paid. They were going to use the same method they used for the original stimulus payment. So, hopefully a lot of issues were resolved, but clearly that's not happened. Um, as a reminder, this is based on the 2019 tax return information. So if you had a dependent that was not on your 29 return, you probably didn't get the first stimulus check, and you may have not got this dependent stimulus check either. So there's a ways to get around that, and I'll discuss that shortly, but it's based on the information in your 2019 tax return. So if you didn't have this dependent or you had a new kid this year, you probably haven't got the dependent payment. There's updated income thresholds as well. The top levels have gone down a little bit, and I'll show those shortly, and I'll put some links below as well. But they reduced the top level, so less people would potentially qualify for it. Again, every dependent gives you a slightly higher threshold, but because of that, some people who may have initially qualified for the first $500 payment won't get the $600 payment. And then the biggest thing, I think, which I think was a miss this time around, which some people thought would be fixed in this stimulus bill, was that it still is only for child dependents, which means that anyone under the age of 17 in 2020, this is a recovery credit. So essentially it means that it's against your 2020 tax return. So anyone under the age of 17 is eligible for this as long as the parents can get the stimulus check, which means that if you have a lot of high school kids or college age kids who tend to be 17 or older, up to the age of 24, who are still considered dependent according to other IRS measures, will not get the second stimulus check. And this was a hole that was there in the first bill, which they thought the Congress would resolve this time. It hasn't changed, probably due to funding. So this group again misses out, unfortunately, on this stimulus check. As a reminder, I talked about the income. So the income levels you can see here to get the stimulus check with no kids is the standard stimulus. There's the lower threshold, which means you get the full stimulus payment of $600 per dependent, and up to $87,000, you can still get some level of the stimulus check. Because if you have multiple kids, the actual level does go up because it does factor in your dependents. So up to 111,000 for singles with two kids, all the way to someone earning close to 200,000 as a married couple, and they have two dependents, they can still get the $600 stimulus check. So it's pretty generous, and a large number of Americans would qualify for it. So there's a lot of angst if they're not getting it. So family of four, that's almost $2,400 if everyone qualifies for it. And this was the specific area you need to look at when you're considering your income qualifications to get at least some part of the stimulus check. So just to recap, some of the most common payment issues. Now, I'll post some links below. You can see some detailed articles with several hundred comments from people in the same boat as you. Unfortunately, I thought the first round of stimulus checks, and there was a lot of issues. People didn't get paid dependents. People are still waiting to get their dependent checks all the way back, for the original stimulus that was paid back in March and April. But the most common issues are you eligible, right? So the first thing is to check, did you meet the income thresholds? Is your child under the age of 17 at the end of 2020? And were they in your 2019 tax return? If you didn't have these three things, then you probably wouldn't get the payment, but there is ways to get around that. Did you have issues with the first payment? So if you found that you got your original stimulus check but didn't get this, the dependent checks, the $500 in the first round, you probably had to write to the IRS. The IRS has tools on its website to go and check the status, update bank details. you're probably going to have the same issues this time around if you had issues before. And these payments are being made in batches, so they may have made the adult stimulus check, but they may be processing the dependent stimulus checks in subsequent batches. So wait with that, and the odds are if you had a payment issue, it may take till mid-January to get a payment. You can go to Get My Payment tool in irs.gov to check the status of your payment, to see if maybe it's pending or it's processing. And especially if you got your adult stimulus check payment, you can go there and make sure that where the payment status is. And the IRS does update that tool pretty regularly. And then finally, if you find that you cannot, you had a dependent that was not in your tax return and you didn't get payments, you can actually claim these in your 2020 tax return. The way these recovery rebates, stimulus checks, economic impact payments, whatever you want to call them, work is that they're essentially advanced tax credits on your return. So you can also do them on your tax return. There's a special section in your 2020 tax return that you can actually go and claim this. So if you didn't get it, claim it there. Of course, don't claim it twice because then you'll have to pay a penalty on that. But I would think that if you don't get your payment, in the next month or two, just claim it in tax return. That's probably the fastest way to get it. For non-filers, there is actually a non-filer portal in the IRS. You can go there and get it. I know there's also some issues where child support payments were there, and again, that's a detailed topic, and I'll post links. But the IRS is also going to work through to make sure that stimulus payments aren't deducted from people who owe child support. So that should be resolved. And it was probably a big issue in the first check. I think the IRS has worked through the backlog of that and working through that. But again, if you don't get this payment from the IRS directly through direct deposit or a check, claim it in your 2020 tax return, and you can actually get paid that way as well, and maybe faster as well, and especially if you're getting out the refunds as well. So hopefully this video was helpful to you.